Thank you very much. Please be seated.
Sporting organizations, citizens of the city of San Fernando who are here this evening. Speaking here and being on this compound has a very profound impact on me personally. And I want to begin by saying when the concept for this community center was started in 2008, it was started because I spent some of my early years in this community and found that there was no facility for young people for recreation in this area, as opposed to what occurred in Vistabella, Marabella, Pleasantville, and Coquille. So the concept came to and we started the process of building. But before we started that, we had to do some lobbying to get approval for this center. It started with the San Fernando City Corporation, who they were opposed to this. The then CEO was livid why we wanted to build a community center here. There were other stakeholders from the community who opposed it. They got the first people from Arima, and they got involved and said it's a sacred ground that we cannot do that. But after some perseverance and government doing what they had to do, we got the project on its way. And tonight, and as last week, we are all here in this spanking brand new building, very proud of its presence, very proud of its capability and having it for our use. I hope that the outcome of tonight's will not be as the project we are about to discuss. Skinner Park was given to the city of San Fernando many, many years ago by Mr. Skinner from Caroni Lands. From Caroni for the lands for development, for the city, for leisure, pleasure sports, as the case may be. Skinner Park has been languishing for quite a while without development. And most of the faces I'm seeing here would have been actively involved in the park from very early days. I can recall seeing Hazley Crawford running in Skinner Park at age 13, representing San Fernando Government School. And look at where he is today, our first gold medals. Skinner Park have not had any major development. Skinner Park was the first ground to have lights. When Earl Mahabir, the then mayor, in 1966, put lights in Skinner Park and gave us our first cycling track. Let's look at that period between 66 and where we are now. How many years have last been in that period? We now have an opportunity to address that problem. I want to thank Judy Cott, mainly the Member of Parliament for San Fernando West, who drove this to get it to where it is today. You have 41 parliamentarians in Parliament clamoring for opportunities and for their electoral district, wanting development. So it's not easy to get approval for any project. This is why it's commendable that the MP would have had to work extremely hard to get approval. Notwithstanding, we're talking about $150 million so far, and climbing. When this was announced some time ago, social media went berserk. People saying, why give Skinner Park $150 million? We need 3 schools here. We need 2 hospitals there. We need beds here. We need this here. We need that there. Those opposed to this. Not understanding what we have been through, how we have been struggling, and how long, and the impact and the value of Skinner Park. And that should be our strategy in going forward. I would like to say that I have some very good news for the major stakeholders, because we have been meeting for the past couple of weeks trying to understand how this started and how it evolved. The good news is that after consultation based on feedback from the various stakeholders, the space for the 3 disciplines, basketball, lawn tennis, and netball, will remain, and is going to be developed into a state-of-the-art space for the 3 entities, and this is where you clap. There were those who were of the view, negatively, that it's not going to happen, but I think that there's that logic of common sense, and there's goodwill, and the government have been flexible, and all the stakeholders inside there, particularly the Member of Parliament for San Fernando West, San Fernando East, the Minister for Rural Government, Rural Development and Local Government, are all San Fernandians, and they lobby. And we spoke to the contractors when we met 2 weeks ago, and we explained that Skinner Park is not culture. Skinner Park is sports and then culture. And once that's clearly understood, we'll have no problem. There's several stakeholders inside of there, and as they outline their plans for you later, I think we all will leave here very proud and excited about what's going to come in Skinner Park. I want to make a special appeal to the contractors and the stakeholders that we have people who with skills in San Fernando. We have fabricators, we have welders, we have builders, we have designers, architects, you name it. So please consider that piece of the pie in terms of employment must stay in San Fernando. So I want to thank you. That is critical and important. And as where I sit, it's my responsibility to ensure, to walk that through and ensure that we have that divide. So I want to thank you all and warmly welcome you all here this evening for this very exciting and interesting evening as we unfold the plans for the development, the redevelopment of Skinner Park. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Worship, for your welcome and that very important background and context to get us going for this important conversation we're about to engage in here this evening. So welcome all, and I want to especially welcome although I'm coming to your cities, but to acknowledge the councillors of the city of San Fernando, the corporation, San Fernando Corporation. I also want to acknowledge Ms. Tricia Alexis, who's the chairman of the Rural Development Company, and she is here this evening representing the MP for San Fernando East and Minister of Tourism, Minister Randall Mitchell. Elders, friends, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to this consultation hosted by the Urban Development Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago, UDCOT, entitled Your Development, Your Community, Your Voice. We propose to have this conversation in 3 parts this evening. 2 parts we will have presentations, and the 3rd part is the conversation with you, where we'll open the mic so that we can have an exchange of views with you. And I want to introduce you to the people sitting at the head table, because these are the people who will really be interfacing with you. And I will also introduce our presenters. So at the head table is the acting CEO, the acting Chief Executive Officer of UDCOT, Mr. Chris Jagrup, who is to my immediate left. Sitting next to Mr. Jagrup is Ms. Candice Bengoche Duncan, and she's the Senior Project Manager at UDCOT. And next to Ms. Bengoche Duncan, and well perched in between she and His Worship the Mayor, is Mr. Terence Bepath, who is the Senior Project Manager of UDCOT. So these are the experts who will be fielding your questions when we come to that interaction with you. I now want to introduce you to the 2 experts who will be presenting. And the presentations will be done, first of all, looking at Phase 1 of the Skinner Park upgrade works. And Phase 1 presentation will be presented, Phase 1 will be presented by Mr. Johan Lamkin, who's actually the designer of the Phase 1 Skinner Park upgrade works. And following Mr. Lamkin, we'll have Mr. Ravi Ramkilawan, who is from NLBA Architects, and Mr. Ramkilawan designed Phase 2. of the Skinner Park upgrade works. And just to return to Mr. Lampkin, I'm sorry, Mr. Lampkin, but Mr. Lampkin is from York Structures. So what we do have are the experts who have designed the project, given the series of consultations that would have occurred in the past, and we have also the experts at UDICOT to walk you through what has been done so far and what is proposed for phase 2. So I want now to give the mic to Mr. Lampkin for his presentation. And when he's done, we'll have Mr. Kilawan, and then we'll talk with each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And good evening, folks. Your Worship, Mayor, esteemed members of the table, head table, councillors, Deputy Mayor, stakeholders, members of San Fernando, City Corporation. I say Port of Spain by the slip of the tongue because we are about to surpass Port of Spain with the design of Skinner Park, the proposed design of Skinner Park, and our intention, as was demanded by UDICOT, the Ministry of Sport, Ministry of Culture, is that this facility should be designed to international standards, first and foremost. Secondly, it must be self-sustainable financially. Thirdly, they do not want to be spending a lot of money to maintain this facility. So we had to take maintenance into consideration and serviceability into consideration. So what we did, we were fixed. We had limits. We had a budget to adhere to. We had fixed boundary lines to adhere to. So as was stated, I will be dealing with phase 1. And phase 1, as the mayor indicated, has phase 1, Skinner Park is an icon and should be treated as such. It's an iconic landmark, and it's one of 2 iconic landmarks that services not only sports, but culture, and at high levels. I remember as a child coming to Skinner Park and attending both sporting events and cultural events. So when we at York was invited, or we tendered, and we bidded to do this facility or design this facility, it was approached with care and responsibility. And I have a lot of friends in San Fernando, and I will be held accountable, even though I'm part of a team, and that team comprises not only the design build contractors at York, but we have been working assiduously with UDICOT and the Ministry of Sport and the Ministry of Culture to give you a facility that you can be proud of. So we had to design for 6,000 persons. We had to include the existing bleachers, or the space that was for 3,000 persons in the existing bleachers, and we had to now design a facility to international standards for an additional 3,000 patrons. So what we did was we had to ensure that we catered for 2,800 persons within proper sight lines of the sporting facilities. We had to cater for the concessionaires, and as was stated earlier, we had to make this facility self-sustainable. For too long, these facilities have been a drain on our economy, and at last count, in discussions with the Ministry of Sport, it was told to us that an annual maintenance budget, the annual maintenance budget is approximately $10 million on all the sporting facilities throughout Trinidad and Tobago. And we had to find a way to reduce that. Okay? So we have, it's 3 floors. We'll go over the floor plan shortly. So we have the ground floor, mezzanine floor, the concessionaires floor. This floor, we're excited about this floor because it's one of the few projects and facilities where you can be purchasing items and still have a view of the event, whether it's sports or culture. We've included corporate boxes as well as an enhanced VIP mayor's box. And we have seating for the corporate boxes and the mayor's box, the VIPs, and so forth. Let's go to the site plan. Right? This was the original site plan. And as the mayor indicated, in our initial discussions, because of the fixed budget that we had to work within the existing boundaries. We had to not touch the basketball court, the tennis court, and the netball courts. Right? So we have basketball, netball, tennis. We had to ensure that we maintain the existing westerly and easterly footprint of the existing bleachers. So we cannot go beyond that. We had to ensure that we have access, we maintain the existing gates, north and south gate off of Cepero Street, and that we have circulation, vehicular circulation around the entire site. We've catered for 2 additional bleachers, which will house the original 3,000 persons that would have been accommodated in the 3 bleachers and the mayor's box on the original plans or pavilion. In speaking with the mayor and his team, the city corporation, councillors, and so forth, 2 weeks ago, we were given a mandate. We had to solve the problem. The problem was we need to bring this facility, these sports, into the fore. So we were faced with that challenge. How do we deal with it? Because we were fixed. We have a fixed boundary lines and so forth, and we had to work within a budget. But we were given the instructions by UDCOT. We met with their architects and their team, the engineers and so forth, the project managers, and we came up with a solution that solves this challenge. Next slide, please. So, what we are proposing with UDCOT is we will enhance the existing grounds. The orientation remains the same, east to west. We will enhance the cycling track. We will scrape the cycling track. Our surveyors have determined that there are some undulations on the track itself, which is not safe. And so we will be grading that properly, working with the Trinidad and Tobago Cycling Federation to ensure that this track will meet international standards and it will be safe for cyclists to ride and to compete. We managed to fit an indoor facility, a multi-use indoor facility where the existing tennis courts are located. And this multi-use facility will house approximately 2,000 persons inside. We have bleachers to the west and east. You will enter off the southern foyer and you will walk around, and I'll go over this shortly because we have some floor plans to show you. We have change rooms, we have public washrooms on either side, and we've catered for the stakeholders and members of the clubs. So we have, I believe, 4 to 6 offices for clubs within the new indoor facility. We've catered for an additional 4 clubs within the new proposed pavilion. And I'll show you those locations shortly. We have the 1,500 and 1,500, 3,000 bleachers, and we've catered for a new basketball court with bleachers in the northeast corner. Okay. Let's go to the next slide, please. This is a view of the south elevation off of Rienzi Curtin Highway. And to aid in marketing the facility, what we've managed to do is we've catered for the hospitality or the concessionaire's floor to be highly visible from the highway, from both Rienzi Curtin as well as Sapero Street. So whilst buying your goods and socializing and so forth and liming here, you will be seen, or the driving public will be able to see you, and hopefully we can get them to park and come and spend some money. All right? We have the hospitality floor where we have the mayor's box and the VIP boxes in the middle, and then we have 8 corporate boxes. So our intention is to approach the corporate citizens, and we will be seeking to have some very nice lease agreements and long-term lease agreements with these corporate citizens. Okay. Next slide. This is a section which shows how we've managed to maintain the sight lines. So whilst seated, everyone will have a perfect view of the events, whether it's on the field or on the track. We've catered for the physically challenged on the concessionaire's floor, where they will have a fantastic view of a fantastic and safe view of the sporting and cultural events. This mezzanine floor is our service floor, and this is where we will have the administrative and also public washrooms. Public washrooms has been a challenge, and that's one of the pet peeves of the Ministry of Sport. After most events in our country held in these facilities, they have to spend money to repair these washrooms. So what they wanted was for us to design very strong, sturdy washrooms where after an event they can bring a hose, wash down, and it will be cleaned very quickly. So we've catered for that. We've catered for fixtures that are off the ground. So when the water comes in, it just flows very easily into the drains that we have. And we've also catered for, we've managed to design, and it has been implemented in facilities in Diego Martin and elsewhere, a nice solution to the maintenance issues that exist with the stalls. Okay. Let's go to the next slide, please. This is a snapshot of the concession areas where we are now looking from the most westerly concession, looking east. This was towards the old tennis courts in the corner here. But as you can see, you can purchase your items and still maintain, you can communicate and have discussions and arguments with your fellow guests, but you could also enjoy the event, the sporting or cultural event, whilst purchasing your items. At this floor, we have catered for both audio and video media. We've also, to enhance and generate some income, we have digital advertising at this level. Next slide. Okay. If you can scroll down. This is the ground floor. So what we have at the ground floor, we enter from the southern side. We have our nice foyer. We have open courtyards on east and west. These courtyards, we have 2 shops on either end. So we have shop number 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is an open area. You enter the facility either from the south, east, and west. So you have your grand hall where meetings such as this can be held. We have catered for security and a place for the stewards, self-contained. We've catered for medical. We've catered for a gym. We catered for the clubs. In these locations, the clubs will have access, direct access to outside, so they don't have to come inside the facility to access their clubhouse. And we have adequate services. We have home and away facilities. We have facilities for the officials as well, change rooms for the officials as well. And we have met the standards for washrooms, public washrooms. We've achieved both local and international the ratios of toilet fixtures and washroom fixtures for the public. So we have adequate public washrooms and rest areas on both the ground floor and the mezzanine floor. When the home and away teams go onto the field, we have a secure area that is closed off. This will be opened, and we have areas for home and away players, which you would have seen in the first rendering. We have elevators, 2 elevators. We have emergency stairs within the main core, and we have 2 public staircases on the southwesterly and southeasterly corners. During events, for example, the concessionaires, they will be given notice, and they will have, if the event is starting at 3, they will have access to the facilities from, let's say, 5 o'clock until 11. So they will use the elevators to bring their goods to the concession booths on the first floor. Next slide. Slide down. Come down some more. All right. This is the mezzanine floor. On this floor, we have catered for the facilities, Skinner Park's administrative staff. We also have public washrooms. We have conference rooms that can also be used by the public and be used to generate some additional revenue and so forth. We also have space for the facilities management team at this floor. And this floor, basically, as was mentioned earlier, this is our service floor. So it serves both the ground floor as well as the upper floors. Okay? Natural ventilation is at this floor. The only places that are air conditioned will be the conference rooms and the administrative, as well as the facilities management offices. These are the public staircases on either end, and then we have staircases, fire exits, and so forth in the core. We could slide down. This was the mezzanine floor. We now go to we missed the floor. Up. See if you can go up again. All right, we'll come back to that. All right, mezzanine. Go again. Come down. All right, I'll deal with this floor. This is the hospitality floor. On this floor, we have 4 corporate boxes on the western side, self-contained with washrooms and access to seats. Each one has access to seats. They will be shell and core, so we will just be providing the fixtures and so forth for them to connect to. They will hire their own designers and they will complete it as deemed necessary and so forth. We will complete the mayor's box and the VIP box, where we will have, it will be self-contained with space for, we will have washrooms, VIP washrooms, we have a general meeting area, we have a bar, and we have access to seats in front of the mayor's box that will provide uninterrupted views of both sporting and cultural events. Okay. Next floor. All right, this is just the roof. Okay. We have a floor that's missing, but I'll deal with that. I don't know, we had it earlier. See if you could go back. Right, slide up. All right, not a problem. Go to the next slide. Go to the next slide. Next slide. All right. So this is the preliminary floor plans for the new indoor complex. You will be accessing this facility from the southern side. This is where you'll have your main foyer. Then you have offices and so forth, security and maintenance. You will be walking on either side, you can go either right or left, and then you go underneath, and this is where we have our bleachers to the east and west, and we have our public washrooms, and these are the clubhouses on these sides here. We have the clubhouses, and to the north we have the change rooms for the home and away teams, as well as the officials, male and female officials. And we've catered for, you are seeing tennis here, but it's designed for multiple use. Okay. Next slide. This is just a, go up. This is the bleachers. We have 2 bleachers on the eastern side that will cater for 3,000 patrons. Okay. Each bleacher is self-contained with its own washrooms and so forth. This is underneath. If you could slide down. So we had to cater for the groundsmen. We have the public washrooms, and we were talking about maintenance and serviceability. So we have chases and service corridors in all the washroom areas. Okay? We've catered for the physically challenged in every public washroom and throughout the entire complex. Okay. Let's go back here. here, from the beginning. So, we have, this would have been the missing floor where you would have seen the 2,800 seats approximately. You will have the concession, the 8 concession booths. You have the audio and video media at this floor. This was the home and away players areas, direct access onto the field, and you have the corporate boxes and the mayor's box. And this is your digital signage here to generate income. All right. Let's go right here. Yes. All right. So this is phase 1. The newly enhanced Skinner Park, built to or designed to international standards. We have the proposed indoor complex, multi-use indoor complex. We have the bleachers. We have the outdoor basketball court with its own bleacher. We have the enhanced playing field, and we will redo the existing cycling track to ensure that it meets international standards. That's the basketball court, outdoor basketball court. The light blue is the indoor complex, the multi-use indoor complex. So within here you will have not only basketball could be played here, tennis, as well as netball. Yes, yes, yes. So, for example, anyway, we will deal with, we have a question and answer session last. So, that's it for me, folks. We'll be taking questions shortly. I will hand over to my esteemed colleague, Ravi Ramkalawan of NLBA.
Good evening. Your worship, members of the head table, councillors, stakeholders, the guests, members of the public. Good evening, everybody. Concerns phase 2, and really phase 2 is really to support the phase 1 project, which is really the extensive project. The brief for phase 2 basically is to provide parking for larger events that would be held at the facility, phase 1 facility, which is the Skinner Park. Across from the Rienzi Highway, currently there's vending along there in the evenings and so on. And the brief also asked us to look at relocating the vending from on that side and incorporate it into by the car park area. All right, let me just pull up my. So just to familiar everybody, this area here is the existing Skinner Park, and this is what Johan just presented a while ago. The area for phase 2 is the adjoining park area that is used by the schools and so on. Members of the public use it for jogging and walking, multi-use facility, cricket, football, whatever. The brief came that what they required was an underground car park whereby nothing is interrupted above ground. So the facility will be hidden below, and the field will be continued to be used by all the schools, members of the public, etc. In addition, none of the trees around, the salmon trees, the large salmon trees around and so on, will be touched. Careful consideration had to be taken in terms of the roots of the trees and how far we could extend basement parking underground. The roof of the basement will be a green roof, hence the playing field would be re-established. All right? So we looked at it and we looked at a couple options. Our presentation is really conceptual designs at this stage, so nothing is filmed. So we just wanted to present it to you today. All right? So the adjoining field, existing Skinner Park, the existing vendors across the street. All right, this is the area. Extensive analysis was taken. We went out there and we took a series. We walked the field a couple times and a couple times more. We took some photographs to understand, you know, when the schools call, what happens in the activities here. All the existing trees were documented and located. The existing stand that there remains. All right, and the challenge was basically how do we provide an underground facility, car park facility, to support the Skinner Park Sporting Complex. Right. Everybody would be familiar with it, but it's a series of photographs that shows the area and all the trees, the field, right, the highway, right, the existing stand. And then in order to establish what we need to do for the car park, we also had to look at the existing facility at Skinner Park and see how it could integrate. Because what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have easy access to the car park, easy access to leave the car park when you're parking to ensure that it is safe for you to return to your car. And the challenge with underground parking is that it needs to be also properly ventilated. All right, some of the challenges and concerns, obviously to extend the basement up to the trees, the routes typical to maximize the extent of the basement parking, existing entrance exit to be reworked as the main entrance, widening and adjusting accordingly. This is along Todd Street. Potential zone along next to the existing stand, potential zone for vending for the vendors. Parking and driveway to be reworked to accommodate the access to vendors. As you know now, when you come in, there's a little paved area here with a slipper road that goes around. So the idea is to look at doing it and revamping it, ensure that it has right sizes and stuff. And then we have to look at a potential area to go down underground. Right? There is a existing sewer line to be reworked. And right now we're toying with the options based on the location of that, how far we extend the basement, whether we touch the line, whether the line could be, you know, relocated. And then in terms of exit, we look at potential exit areas. Right, so simply, hello, yeah. So simply a concept design for an underground car park with playing field above and a concession/vending area with adequate parking at a second-class ground at Skinner's Park. A cost estimate is to be provided for the same. The underground parking will provide additional parking for the adjacent Skinner's Park facility during large events. The client would also like to relocate the vendors from the southern side of the Rienzi Curtin Highway to along the park area. Concept design. The design proposed should maintain the current use of the existing playing field for the nearby schools and the community. In addition, facilities such as paved areas for vending, trucks, tents, running water, electricity, lighting, ample parking, to accommodate after-hour vending is to be provided. The concept should, as much as possible, keep all trees and the existing spectator stand. The underground car park is to be well lit and safe place to park and retrieve your vehicle. Easy access to and egress from the car park is required. The car park is to be properly ventilated. All right. And what we have shown here is precedents across the world where facilities like this has happened. This area, this detail shows a cross-section of building a turf on the roof of a concrete structure. This ground shows a car park below with a raised, elevated turf. And that's a concept for ventilating the underground car park with the venting stacks. Right? And, well, a basement parking layout. Concept sketch. Basically showing the entrance, maintaining the parking, allow parking along proposed vending, creating running, jogging track, staying far from the roots to the trees not to damage or kill any of the trees, a ramp down to the basement parking, a ramp out to exit along the slipper road here, and a possible exit along Skinner Park, adjacent to the existing facility. This is the highway here. So concept one, basement parking. Basically, we would have gotten about 500 vehicles, right? And above the concrete roof is the basement parking, is a playing field, grass turf with required drainage, field markings, etc. Right? And in addition to that, we got for vending for about 72 additional above ground parking spaces. This just shows you a typical layout of the parking. This area here would be on the southern side. This is where the intention would be to ramp down your parking. And in different locations, you would have vertical circulation, whereby when you park, you could enter, come up. Obviously, we will have to have elevators for the physically challenged. We will have adequate lighting. And what we did, not to excavate too far down, what we did was we popped the field up just a little bit so that we could get some natural light and cross ventilation in the car park area. Exiting basically was in this zone here. This just shows above ground, the park, the playground and so on will be maintained, the trees will be maintained and so on. This is the vending areas that we're proposing. This is the existing spectator stand to remain. And this is the parking above ground to allow after hours people would park their cars and come and then purchase. A cross section that just explains it a little bit. This green zone here is basically the existing grade, so the parking would be below ground. We have popped it up a little bit, just raise it a little bit to allow some cross ventilation and lighting. And the intention is the roof of that basement will be a turf. We're deciding as well, based on economics, whether a grass turf, which would be the first preference, or an artificial turf which be used. It will help in terms of an artificial turf, will help in terms of reducing the costs, in terms of planting of seeds and maintenance and irrigation and so on. So that's concept one. Concept two is basically a parking on grade with a playing field above. This option, we have gotten, again, about 500 cars. Same sort of vending sizes and parking for customers for the vending. Similar layout. However, this option, you don't go underground. You park on the existing field. And what the intention is that we take the field and put it on top of the car park. And this is the section that shows it. So the green here is the existing field, and we're building the car park above it. And above the car park is where we're putting now the new turf. So what the first two options does is it does not hamper the existing playing field that is there. It'll be basically the same, right? Obviously it will be a little elevated, and we're proposing some fence around so that any ball games and so on, the ball won't, you know, run off. And as an option number 3, what we did was we reduced the field size, and we provided a 3-level car park on grade. And what that basically did was to prevent from going underground, we shortened the playing field area, and we provided as an option a multi-story car park of 3 levels. So it'll be your parking on grade, 1 level up, and the roof of that level would be a parking level. So you have 3 levels. And what that parking level structure does, it is going to be adjacent to the existing Skinner Park. But what it does, it doesn't utilize the entire field. So the area here will be still maintained. All the trees and everything will be maintained in that area all around. However, this area would be what we would use as a 3-level parking structure. Just to explain that on section. The green zone, as you see here, is the existing grade. We provide a parking level on grade, 1 parking level above, and the roof of that parking level is a 3rd parking level, 3 levels up. What this option does is that it just puts all the parking stacked one on top of the other and puts it in close proximity to the Skinner Park area. The disadvantage with this option, quite obviously, it reduces the playing field area. All right? And that concludes my presentation.
Mr. Ravi Ramkilawan of NLPA Architects, presenting on phase 2 of the Skinner Park upgrade project, and to Mr. Johan Lamkin of York Structures, who presented on phase 1. Join me in, please, applauding their efforts again in their presentations. And so as we get set to engage them, I saw a number of persons come in whilst the presentations were being done. And I want to say to you good evening and welcome on behalf of UDICOT. And I want to say to all of you, citizens of the city of San Fernando, citizens, councillors, elders, all, that we are very, very grateful that you chose to be here this evening. And what we propose to do now is to have you engage with the experts, those who have designed the projects and who made the presentations. And we also have on stage here, as I noted earlier, the experts from UDICOT who manage the contractors who do the work to ensure that you have a better quality of life. So I'm going to open up the floor now, and the way we can do it, I want to suggest, is that I'll take a few questions and then have the panelists who may be the ones that you want to respond to you, have them respond to your questions and your clarifications. And I'm sure that the people you'll want to talk to the most are Mr. Lamkin and Mr. Ramkilawan. So the floor is now open. We have 2 microphones in the middle of the aisle. Please feel free to use them. I see. Could you please, when you come to the microphone to ask your question, just share with us, please, your name and possibly what community you come from. Thank you very much.
Pleasant good night, members of the head table, Mayor of San Fernando, Mr. Junia Regrello, Deputy Mayor of San Fernando, Mrs. Vidya, and councillors and other stakeholders. My name is Stephen Connell, and I am one of the coaches that run a football coaching school in San Fernando, Skinner Park, and we go under the name of Julia Praise Football Coaching School. I must say that this venture is long in coming, and I just want to take the opportunity now to applaud those who have made it possible. There are some things that are going through my mind at this point in time, and in listening to the presentation, I don't know if I missed it, but I did not hear anything about the walking track on the second ground. I didn't also hear anything as regards to that dangerous wall that we have that separates the both fields. I think that is something that needs to be addressed. The field that you mentioned in the, I need to get some clarification on. The second ground where you say the field is going to be much smaller. Now, I don't know how much smaller that field is going to be, right? And how it is going to impact on the folks that have to use the field. And finally, I want to say that we sometimes wait until our heroes depart before we show some form of honor. Now, nobody didn't ask me to say this. I've raised this in another forum with the councillors at some point in time at Skinner Park. And I'm happy to hear that the existing stand in the second ground is going to be retained. And like I said at that time, and I will say it again, I would like to suggest that the name be given to that stand. And the name I suggested at that time, the gentleman is here tonight, I want to suggest on behalf of my coaching school to name that stand after John Stedman. Why? Because of the fact that he's alive. Because of the fact that he did tremendous work for youths in Skinner Park. And not only in Skinner Park, but also he represented Trinidad on numerous occasions. And he's still alive. So I would like for it to go down in record that in consideration of the name of that particular stand, that consideration be given for that name change. I want to thank you for now.
Thank you very much. Other comments, please?
Good evening. His Worship the Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of the UDICOT panel or team that is here, fellow citizens of San Fernando. My name is Patrick Charles, and I am speaking on behalf of the tennis players who use the facility at Skinner's Park. So I think we are delighted with what we have seen. Having said that, we have a small concern, and that concern rests with how is the proposed multi-purpose facility supposed to work, given the fact that the expectation is it would be shared between tennis and netball and netball, basketball, maybe even volleyball. We know of areas that are marked with alternative markings for different games, but there's a dynamic in terms of who has priority use. I don't know where that conversation will go in terms of how we determine who uses the facility when. And our other concern relates to what is the proposed construction time for that facility? And coming out of that question, we would also like to know, during that time, because we imagine it becomes a construction site, what consideration has been given for us to be able to conduct our activities in some other location? Right? But it is said that if you're not prepared to work for the kind of community you want, do not be upset with the community you get. So the fact that we are all here means that we are working towards the kind of community we want. I want to add one small thing to what I just said, and that is, in 2 months' time, we will be celebrating the 59th anniversary of Trinidad's independence. In 43, 59, 58, 57. In 43 years, we'll be celebrating the 100th anniversary. But 43 years seems to be a long time, but it is only 516 months. And when next month finish, it will be 515. So time is not on our side in terms of deciding the kind of society we want and, creating and shaping it so that our work will be worked towards building something specific. We like what we have seen. We know there are going to be ongoing issues. We thank you for your effort.
Thank you.
Madam Chairperson, Mayor of San Fernando, Deputy Mayor, all the councillors, especially invited guests, and members of the community who are here with us. My name is Alim Ali. I'm the principal of Asha Boys College in San Fernando, and one of the main users of the park over the years and has served the community well. First, I want to say special thanks to the San Fernando City Corporation for being benevolent, being kind, being most accommodating in all our school activities over the years. We want to thank you sincerely over it. And one of the main vantage points of, or the uses of the park has been unfettered public access to the ground. We are hearing that there is a need to make the Skinner Park ground commercially viable, but anyone who has been in San Fernando has known the freedom that we have had as burgesses and constituents of the community to that ground. Really has been one of the things that have made us into the persons we are today. And I am hoping that there is some interest, special interest for those in the community who can gain access easily. Those of us who know Mani Ramjan will know that members of the public cannot access that main ground easily. And that has been one of the reasons why some persons have not made full use of that ground as it ought to be as a community ground in San Fernando. I would also want to add the fact that the previous speaker spoke about a time frame, and there's an opportunity cost of construction taking place for San Fernandians. The lack of what you want to call development with Skinner Park has been commensurate with the loss of the gloss of San Fernando. We have a whole generation of sportsmen who have been lost because the facilities of the park over the years have not been maintained, have not been kept up. And we are seeing that there is a grand design for Skinner Park too. Technically, that looks far superior to anything I've ever seen in this part of Trinidad or the Caribbean. And I don't know the economic cost of such a facility, of having a plain surface under and maintaining it standard will be viable in the long run. I would want to say that also the area at Skinner Park, if you want to look at the density population as already crowded as it is, and any design that takes away the green space, the grassy area, really will be a loss to the community. So in the design, we must keep all of this in mind, that over the years, we have also seen the loss of the cricket grounds. We have also seen the loss of the nets that used to be in that area. And with it, a whole generation of sportsmen in San Fernando have also gone with that. I would want to also, in my final comments, say that, again, this is really a great idea. It has really has been missing from San Fernando. Any of us who know San Fernando will know that that part of our history is connected to that place spiritually, emotionally, and otherwise. And I was talking to my friends there who played before crowds of nearly 20,000 in intercol games gone by. And so we are saying that in that design also, it seems to be a small number of persons that we seem to be catering for. We have to think of the future, and in any design, try to maximize the space. Thank you very much, and good evening to all.
Question. Before we toss it to the panel to respond, you wanted to speak in this round? Okay, fine, after him. Yeah.
Hi, good evening to the head table and to all present. My name is Richard Wanchan. I am president of the Southern Football Association. While I have a concern, it wasn't clear in the presentation as far as how many change rooms would be built into the main stadium. There's a concern where international football is concerned that one should look at change rooms for officials also in football. And we would have liked to see 4 change rooms and change rooms for the officials. All right, so that is one. The mayor in his presentation confessed of seeing a guy from on Harris Street named Hasty Crawford running Skinner Park. And nowhere in the consideration or the presentations, any mention was made of what is to happen with San Fernando people and track and field. Somebody might go so far to say there is Mani Ramjan, and I live next to Mani Ramjan, and I can tell you Mani Ramjan track and field, track surface is anything to damage little children, especially because it is harder than this. There's no mud on it, there's nothing on it. So I would like some consideration to be given so that the people on Harris Street could remember that we started track and field, we started our first gold medal at Skinner Park. Thank you.
Right here. All protocols observed. Good evening. I'm Lucy Margaret Regis, and I'm here to speak on behalf of netball. In 1979, netball, well, we all know in Trinidad and Tobago, joint winners. We also had Trinidad and Tobago, a southerner, who was the first West Indies netball captain. Stand, please. Sherry Ann Blackburn. Yes. So she's here. She's the president and secretary of the San Fernando Netball League and the last president of San Fernando Netball League. I wrote down 2 things on my paper, hearing all of the information. Safety of the patrons and reminiscing on the motto of the city of San Fernando, in a healthy environment we'll find strength, which will mean all of the greenery weighing. I stand with the principal of Astra there, that without the greenery, breathing will not become, sufficient. So I'm concerned about those aspects. I'm also concerned about, because that thing wasn't clear. We were fortunate to be sitting in front by Mr. Ravi Rampalawan to ask for clarification on the netball, the basketball, and the lawn tennis courts. We wondered if they were on top of each other. And those things were not clear because the maps were showing. In the beginning, one showed something else. But originally, I think that was 5 years ago, in the B ground, there was a symposium which indicated that the netball courts in Skinner Park will be running parallel to Sando Street, and that there will be 2 netball courts, one for warm-up and one for matches. And we still need that into consideration, because I would say that as World Championships, netball we deserve a lot. We have struggled a lot with dilapidated beaches, and we are hopeful that this aspect of the elevation of Skinner Park will come to fruition in 12 months' time. Yeah. We have many people in Skinner Park, as His Worship said, who will be willing and who are skilled technicians and engineers and people with all different qualities to become employed, specifically netballers. We have skills.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We have some very specific questions for Mr. Lamkin and Mr. Ramkilawan. And Your Worship, I also heard a couple of things that may require your attention. And of course, we'll also toss any of the questions that are not handled from the team here to our panel on the podium here. So, Mr. Lamkin, would you like to start? Microphone for him.
All right, I'll be addressing everyone that pertains to phase 1, and then Ravi will deal with his side. In our presentation to His Worship the Mayor and the city corporate officials and other stakeholders 2 weeks ago, the Mayor indicated to us that we have to do away with the 5-year planning. And it was a very interactive presentation where there was feedback, there was healthy discussions, and so forth. But I was glad that he indicated that we have to think of the planning holistically. You would have seen that what has to happen, and we refer to the Tennis Association, the Netball Association. Regarding the Netball Association, we were informed that we now have to cater for both male and female netballers, and we have to have separate changing facilities for both, etc., etc., and that's mandated now. Regarding the tennis, we had to ensure that they are catered for as well, and both mandates how fast we could get these facilities up and running. What we will be proposing, this is a consultation where feedback is given. We will be liaising with UDCOT, we will be liaising with NLB Architects, and we will propose to UDCOT that a master plan for the next 50 years be done, and that master plan will include feedback from you guys tonight, and will stretch, I'm proposing to them, from the western boundary of Sapa to the eastern boundary of Skinner Park at Sando Street. If we do that holistic planning, I believe we can solve all the issues addressed today, the issues of netball, because the challenge we have is if we are to locate both the netball and the tennis courts within phase 1, we now have limited space, and we would now have to resort to scheduling, which has its own challenges. Right? The basketballers, we have solved their solution because they have an independent court. But we now have to deal with the netballers, and that's why we're proposing 2 courts, tennis as well as netball. So we could have scheduled sessions between the tennis players and the netballers and so forth. But your points are taken into consideration, and we will be liaising with UDCOT to find a solution. But there will be a whole lot of give and take because the boundaries are fixed. But we will come up with a solution. We have some solutions based, we'll have discussions with NLBA, UDCOT and ourselves, and we will solve your problems. Okay? Yes, sir.
I'm speaking to UDCOT now about a suggestion that will address what Mr. Charles is asking about. Mr. Charles, we may look at the possibility, as I was speaking here with the project manager, with a two-tier approach for the space, where lawn tennis could have the bottom floor and basketball and netball can use the upper floor. Now, this is not cast in concrete, but we are working on some of the solution. I think that may be very well be the solution to that. If that is acceptable. Good?
Can I suggest that we get the responses and then we have another round? Because in the further responses, you may get further clarification.
But is that, okay, yeah? Sorry, is that acceptable to the Lawn Tennis Association? Above. So we can reverse it. Yeah, no problem.
All right. Ravi, regarding you need to discuss your field 2.
So yeah, I think the two questions I would address is, yes, a running track and walking track is maintained. And in terms of, I just want to re-emphasize that the trees, all the salmon trees, will be keeping, and we have to stay clear from the roots of the trees if we're excavating to put any parking down. And in terms of the options, bear in mind we're still in concept for phase 2, and we just came to present the 3 options we're looking at. Nothing is set in stone, right? The third option, as an option which we had to put on the table, addressed a multi-story car park, reducing the existing playing field by some. What I could say is that we calculated using a FIFA-sized football field, and in addition to that, more area, and the resultant space is what we used for the multi-story car park. So to just give you an idea, it will be a football-sized field and then some, and the resultant space is what we would use if we ever went, if we, we go in that direction as the option. Yeah.
Okay, doke. I want to, I'm coming back to the floor, sister. Just let me get some further comments and clarifications for the House, okay?
I may want to address a couple of questions were asked regarding schools and the wrong, if I may.
Yeah, I'm just about to toss it to the table here, so go right ahead, please.
Right.
Yes.
So, San Fernando is very unique. The radius between Harris Promenade and Skinner Park, going north to south, and east as far as the bypass, and west as far as probably Naparima College, we have 27 schools. Nowhere else in Trinidad you have that problem, which is within the inner city. And most of them use that space for sporting activities. And all these factors we take into consideration, and we are quite aware of some of them, how we adjust, how we facilitate. We also, the city corporation, we're looking at space, open space, available parks, whatever we have in the interim to accommodate some of the requests and demands. And as we go along, this is why I just need to share that information who may ask that question. It is a challenge for us because, as Mr. Lumpkin said a while ago, in their presentation, somehow when you look at San Fernando, you get the impression that much thought didn't go into the development of San Fernando. The way San Fernando is structured and over the years. We now have an opportunity to address those problems. This is why, as I said to him, let's plan for 20, 30 years long as opposed to a 5 years plan.
Okay, Unicott?
Okay, so Terence Bipat, for those who don't know me, just piggybacking off what the mayor would have said, we are looking for alternative tennis courts to be set up in the constituency of San Fernando West. I know the MP and I have been talking to the Naparima club to acquire that, but for UDCOT to acquire it, we understand there's some management issues. This is the clay court at the back of Naparima Bowl. That's one, and me and I have been discussing some of the playground, the play parks that are not being utilized in the city, that we could look at creating some more facilities, public tennis courts. We came up with a solution, but unfortunately it was in San Fernando East, and that was of a bigger cost, and we wanted to keep it in this part of San Fernando. So over the next couple of weeks, we are going to identify some spaces where we will be setting up some auxiliary courts, everyday use courts. The reason our indoor facility was thought of in this concept was that San Fernando does not have a space to host a proper tournament. And the thinking, and we've run into this problem in Diego Martin, where you design a facility and then you put it to everyday use, it's not going to sustain itself, and therefore maintenance is going to be an issue. So we are now in the process of actually doing a sweat ground for Diego Martin, so that persons could preserve the facility for proper tournaments. And in Skinner Park case, we would like to see the Intercol return to Skinner Park. So that's the thinking behind the indoor. It's not cast in stone, it's still being conceptualized, and if we can't reach a consensus. But in the interim, we are looking at a couple of sites. Just yesterday, the MP and I was talking about the old Petrotrin Club, where we were trying to find out what are they going to do with those courts, just at the Marabella Bridge. And we are supposed to get an answer before the week is done to see if we can acquire those, and also utilize that Petrotrin ground for track and field, because we really can't put everything in Skinner Park. There's some things that have to be given. In terms of the second-class ground and the parking, now obviously this facility is catering for 6,000 persons, and an event, where are these people going to park? So there is a need for parking. The underground facility was the #1 idea. Of course, the cost is a major factor, and the constraints with the sewer line that is running under there. It is pricey to do this underground. I don't know if the cabinet is going to agree, but we are going to present it to the cabinet. That's why Mr. Ravi would have done 3 options. So whichever one they see feasible, based on the consultation with the community, as well as the feedback, factor in the costs and where we are economically in the country, we would then come to a place where this one is concerned. But yeah, for sure, the preliminary costs that Ravi and they produce, it's not a cheap venture, but it's the most workable one in terms of maintaining the green spaces and of course all the other amenities. The issues with the vendors and the cross-crossing, we've had complaints coming to the MP that disruption of traffic and all of that, and of course the gas station owners complain that they can't get the customers in. So there's a solution that needs to be derived from that by moving those vendors in a more structured manner into the Skinner Park second-class ground area, and really closing down that food. Well, of course, the mayor would not like that because he would lose some revenue. But I think he's going to get the revenue back at the second-class ground because the booths are going to be rented. Right? So that was just some of the things that are being worked on, while in the interim, the basketball and the tennis courts will not be interrupted while the pavilion is being constructed. It's going to remain until a solution is derived. And that solution should come within the next 3 months, because of course construction will start on the pavilion side and the cycle track shortly. So I've cleared some of those things up, hopefully. Yes?
All righty.
Correct.
I think the commercialization of the second ground, which is what is being touted here, will destroy San Fernando. It will, the people who spend so much of their time coming in the morning to train, to jog in the evening, how many of you come there during the day, morning or in the evening to see how heavily used that place is? By the ordinary citizen, by the young, by the old. I don't think trying to commercialize it by bringing food stalls from the other side over onto this side is going to help very much. Yes, it might bring some money, but money is not everything. The number of people who benefit, whose health is helped every day by making use of the jogging track, either walkers or runners. If any of the politicians were to come there one evening, they would say, boy, this is great. We're not touching this place at all. A little enhancement to the second ground can help. Where the jogging track has cracks, it can be repaired. Maybe some fence could be placed so that the people playing football, when they kick the ball, there's no risk to the people walking. That can be done. I've seen that done abroad. And a fresh layer of grass on the jogging track, on the second ground can do. Now, what happened in the past with parking? We've always been activities in the first ground, and as far as I know, the second ground has been used for parking. Yes, it creates at times some inconvenience, but it hasn't been throughout the year. You've had the circus being used. And even when the circus being used, the jogging track was able to be used. So I believe that to attempt to do anything with that second ground in terms of commercializing it, in terms of cutting down the area that runners and walkers and joggers use, would be a disservice to the people of San Fernando. That is all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, let me
support you. And I'm sure the council will support you with that. It's not cast in concrete. There's several recommendations being made. Some of it is very advanced, but very high-tech stuff that I think we need. All may not be practical. The decision will rest with us. There's going to be continued dialogue, and your views and thoughts are being recorded. So I want to give you the assurance.
Okay,
just also give the assurance again. I think Ravi would have said it, but probably wasn't heard. The jogging track will not be interrupted. I want to make that clear. The jogging track will not be interrupted. Make that quite clear. Got that? Let's clarify that. The issue with the vending was another problem that's being created on the other side, and persons came with recommendations. But I think there is going to be some kind of call to shut that cross-crossing food vending thing down sometime soon, because the business people are complaining. So I would leave that up to the mayor and the MPs to trash that one out. But the MP had asked that we factor that into the design. If it is that we take it out, it's not a problem. That could be done.
Thank you, Mr. Beepath. Let's have our second round continue. Go ahead, please.
Good night to everyone. Just a recommendation.
Can you tell us who you are, please?
Sorry. Rosanna Ramdale from Laramine, also a member of Lesser Netball Group. Some persons would have expressed some of my concerns already with phase 1 in terms of sharing. However, I was just on phase 2, a recommendation, or if it hasn't been looked at, supper. Instead of doing the 3-level package, why not do it at supper parking areas so it will be generalized to Skinner's Park? Also, well, I know that there's differences within sure I clear up the school name, but I know it's a secondary school. The play field there is somewhat not usually used. Also, that can be looked at as another area to have a package area also part of it. If, you know, so it can be utilized by all the schools and also members from the Skinner's Park and Napa as part of, you know, outsourcing outside package. That's my comment.
Thank you very much. Let me take a couple. We'll take a couple again and then we'll toss it to the...
Good afternoon, all protocols observed. My name is Rowena Williams, representing the Cycling Federation. I want to say thanks to the mayor for the consultation, but I am a little bit disappointed, one, in the fact that we have some designs taking place and there wasn't consultation, so from that standpoint, initially, really and truly, we should be having the consultations before the design start. So we, you know, we go wrong side sometimes, but all that being said, regarding the cycle track, is there consideration for the gradient change in terms of what is this right now? And two, the material that is going to be used. Are we going to be keeping the asphalt, or are we considering something else to be used because we want to make some suggestions, and we would have that discussion if need be, depending on if you tell me that it's considered to have some changes made. Right? So those were the two concerns we have in terms of the cycling. Also, one of the things we recognize, and most of the facilities, when they do it, they don't consider the athletes. Where are we going to be housing the athletes? We study the spectators, the supporters, where we're going to house them, and we will cater for the 3,000, but what happened to the athletes? We're not seeing any concepts there where the athletes are going to be housed. For instance, cycling, I see football have there where we have the football people going to be sitting the teams, but what is happening to cycling and where we're going to be housing the cyclists that are coming to participate. So those are the things that we need to discuss and find out what is really going to take place in that aspect.
Thank you very much. At the back, there's a gentleman at the...
Good night all. Your Worship the Mayor, members at the head table, friends, members of the public. First of all, my name is Gerard Homer. I definitely was heavily involved in football, and Skinner's Park, I don't know how valuable to say this to me, but words cannot express the terrible years and times I spent in Skinner's Park. And I believe that gentleman, I don't know his name, he couldn't be more correct in what he said because of what Skinner's Park has been and is still today. All these design concept and things that was presented, it sounds good, but the heart of people who really use that facility sees that all we really need was a proper enhancement to the facilities all over. That would bring Skinner's Park to a place where it's acceptable and will carry us forward. Basically, that's how I see it. But in the design, as I was watching the stands in phase 1, I am not too good in engineering, but I see that the stands is in a southwesterly direction. And if it is that people know that our rain comes from the northeast, right? And what happens in cases like that, and I saw it in other places, that when the rain falls, all the rain will come into that stand and people have to find their way up in the back for shelter and things like that. So I don't know if I'm right there, but to me, that is one of the things I saw, right? The other thing is, well, of course, as we know, we're talking about going green and whatever. And our country right now, we're looking at energy, and I don't know if any thought was put into solar and different things like that, that would make it more modernized because of the inventor of solar and things like that. So I don't know if that is being considered by the engineers and people who are doing that, but it's something need to be looked at. And I think if it is we go that way, we probably would be able to save, it would be cost in energy and that, because I didn't hear about lights and this and that, but I know that's in the making. But that could be a cost-effective way of doing some of the things that we might want to do in enhancing the facility. So thank you all very much, and that's about it for me.
Thank you very much.
Good night to all, everyone on the head table. My name is Dwayne Cadiz, and I am a park user. All right, also a parent affiliated with the Judah Praise Coaching School. I wanted to ask a question to the mayor in particular regarding the budget that he spoke to for the project at the beginning of the presentation. I can't remember the figure, but I would like to ask if that figure comprises both phase 1 and also phase 2. In respect to the project itself, we know that the project is to really enhance San Fernando, but are we looking globally at how the facility itself could bring back revenue through sporting tourism and also add value to the burgesses of San Fernando by generating revenue through business opportunities, right? That's 2. And 3, I wanted to also ask the question in regard to the design build concept of the facility. We understood, and I heard it from several persons mentioning the environmental impact. One of the suggestions by Mr. Ravi was about the turf, the synthetic turf. But understanding that nature plays an important role in human development, I think that we should continue to seek the best interest for the environment and the environmental impact that it would have on us as human beings, especially in San Fernando, because the park is basically the lungs of San Fernando, or that district, and we need to preserve it. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll take a final question. There she goes.
Good night. To the head table, His Worship the Mayor and UDCOT Chairperson. I am Sherry Ann Blackburn, and I represent Netball. Our concerns are that of sport in general. I'm also a product of Skinner's Park. And I'm saying that because the redevelopment of Skinner Park really, like most of us here, touches my heart, because it is one of the spaces where multi-sport training existed for persons in the district of San Fernando, and it was free. And I'll say this to you, one of the things about, and even though if we transition, I heard that to commercialize, the challenge with that is that some of the young persons who want to access training facility in sport cannot afford to do it at the training level. I coach netball, and some schools, the principals, now that we have boys involved, send children to be trained who are from the lower end economically as a tool to help them be transformed through sport positively in their classrooms. And if we add a fee to it, even as we exist, we may not survive. We may not be able to reach everybody, the wide gap, the wide amount of persons that can be reached through the present facility. We really need a training ground that is accessible to every and anybody. I'm supporting redevelopment. I'm in full support of that. But I'm saying we can pose a challenge when we add figures to things and we fail to seriously consider those persons who cannot. The other challenge is a multi-purpose facility. A multi-purpose facility, and I'm hearing it's changing, and we want to add to that. The flooring is a concern for netball, whether who goes up and who goes down, and the size definitely is a concern for us. We have, yes, outgrown the space, and we have held back for years, being promised a redeveloped facility. So every year when we asked, we made a request, we were told that, hold on, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. So the wow part of the first part where the cycling track and the football is held and the changing rooms are clearly identified, we are hoping from tonight that we would have heard that similar expression and visual of what we were waiting on, that it has finally arrived, that this wow project is unfolding. So we will want to be part of the multi-purpose understanding where we fit in that scheme. Again, the challenge is money, but we'll work together. Look forward to that.
Thank you very much. Let me just ask, I'll ask the Mr. Lampkin and Mr. Kilawan, please, to respond to those issues that you can.
Thank you, members of the audience. I'll start with the netball. You will be consulted, ma'am, but as was stated earlier, there will be a lot of interaction between UDCOT, the stakeholders, and ourselves. All right? We catered for players' areas, change rooms, and so forth, but we need to go deeper.
Mr. Lampkin, in the interest of time, we formed a subcommittee with all the stakeholders 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And we proposed that we'll have regular meetings, and they were asked to bring a proposal to the corporation, which we'll pass on to you. In the interest of time, because we'll be going around in a circle, and we have already addressed those issues. Bring whatever you have, what you think should be done, what's required, and we'll have regular meetings on a Saturday morning. We can spend the whole day and talk about these issues, because there are several other issues that we have to talk here about this evening. Bring it to us, and we are working closely with yourself and UDCOT to move forward.
Very good. I agree.
Mr. Kilawan, is there anything that you want to address? You okay? Yes? Okay, UDCOT? You good? All righty. Do we have any further comments or questions from the floor, or can we wrap? 2.
Madam Chair, we are here tonight because we were invited to a public consultation. The challenge is that even though a committee was formed, not everything was supported in that forum. His Worship is very much aware of that, and he's also aware of the concerns raised, and I think it's bordering on disrespect to sum up what I just contributed by saying we did that already at Skinner's Park. I'm here because I represent the interests also of the users of the park. And it's really wrong that you will just say, we went through that last week, we did not agree. We are here at a public consultation so that you can hear publicly our views. It's just wrong.
Thank you very much for your comment. And
Moderator, before, what we ask is to document all the problems you have and pass it on to us so we can move forward. Most of what was said tonight was already said, and we are aware, not that we are in agreement or disagreeing with it, but bring the information so we can move forward. So what was said was repeated last week and the week before. And that's the purpose of having the committee. And there's several things that need to be done because we are quite aware of your challenges. And I very well agreed with most of the points that you raised.
Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone. All protocol observed. My fellow park users. Ma'am, I've heard everything for tonight. The one thing we haven't heard is a guesstimate, approximate, however you want to phrase it. When is this project going to start? The reason I'm posing this question to members here present, I can't recall, unfortunately, what year it was, but when our previous mayor, Mr. Kazim Hussein, I think it was, we had a similar meeting at the big grounds discussing the same thing. So, as my daughter reminded me this afternoon, a promise is a comforter of fool. And tonight I stand here, unfortunately, as a multi-purpose user of Skinner Park, netball, pan, semi-finals, just to name a few, feeling like a fool. I feel totally disrespected because the only thing I appreciate about tonight is that we actually see something was put on paper with respect to the development of Skinner Park. But it's top in mud. When?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sure we're going to be able to address the concerns that the two last speakers had. I need to take a break so that we can get some responses for you, because it may cover the issues that you may want to raise. And I want to toss the questions to Udicott and to the mayor as well. So, Mr.
Well, first one,
is it?
I'm not aware of the consultation on what basis it was held, because this is a Udicott project in tandem with the Member of Parliament for San Fernando West and by extension the corporation. If this was held 3 years ago, I cannot comment. I know Udicott was involved in that. I don't know anything about that.
Sure. Mr. Bipats, Mike, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so, well, I heard someone mention a while ago that we're putting the cart before the horse kind of thing. And the reason that was done is really, basically what you see here is a concept. And we have done what was not done in the past. We've actually gone to Cabinet for approval. In order to go to Cabinet for approval, you have to produce some kind of concept. Getting Cabinet approval is step 1. We have gotten Cabinet approval based on the concept. The design can change at this point in time, and the reason for us going the way of design bill is that is the exact reason why. We could change as we go along, minor changes, but the point is this has already gotten the green light from the Cabinet. We already have a contractor. So for the lady who is disrespected or disappointed, right, what has happened in the past is not what's happening now. You are 5 steps ahead. We have a contractor and we have a start date. Yeah, right? So the construction period is 18 months.
My dear, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
However, as my colleague said before, Ms. Blackburn, how could you go towards Parliament or Cabinet with respect to design, having not consulted?
Right, and well, that's what I'm saying. You would have had consultations in the past. And if we go the rate of that, we would have been consulting still. So what we did a concept of what we, based on all the consultations, including the one that you would have attended with Mayor Hussein, as I'm certain those notes would have been recorded, and we went forward with that. So we are a little bit further. As I said, things can change as we go forward.
There's room for adjustment as you go along.
Correct. So in the issue of the netball and the basketball, nothing else, and the tennis, nothing else is going to take place on that until we come back together. What is going to start is the cycle track, the pavilion building. That is going to, we should have already been in construction, but I think there are some events that are actually keeping us back. But we are going to start breaking ground possibly in the month of July for the pavilion building as well as the cycle track. That phase of it. Phase 2, the car park, has not gone to Cabinet as yet. That is something that we have to flesh out as we go forward. We've heard the concerns of everyone here, and we have to come up with a parking solution. We've heard NAPA, we've heard SAPO, we've heard all the different options available, and we will sit down and see which one. 1 is economical and 2 is workable for everybody concerned. So around this time next year, you should be seeing the facility almost completed. Yeah? Any other question before we close?
Thank you, Mr. Bipas. I'm going to, I'm sorry, you got an opportunity before. I'm so sorry, but there's some people at the back who need to.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Ricardo Charles. I'm from Arima, San Fernando, and the rum shop line. Right? So, we don't drink rum. The name is rum shop line. I'm from San Fernando. One of the key things I heard this afternoon was when the gentleman on the second page said the ground is a people-oriented ground, but the main ground isn't. So we cannot hold an international thing in the day. We have to have it at night, right? Based on your orientation, if we stick to the orientation you have. Because of the gentleman spoke of the orientation of the stand where we walk and really rain will fall. That's one. And it's nice to know that we have something on paper, but somehow not much thought went in for the people of San Fernando. And that's what I'm seeing here. You know, everybody muttering that we had these things down, but where is it been written? We have no proof.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sister in the black here. I'm seeing a hand at the back that is going to be the absolute last. Yeah, thanks. Go ahead.
Good night, Lisa Stanislaus, representing Netball. I listened to all that is taking place, and we start with first, I don't see anybody from the Ministry of Sport to the front, and I know when I came in, I was hearing a lot that the ministry was involved and whoever else, Udicott and the mayor and everybody, right? The first, based on, I can't remember his name, the gentleman in the purple shirt, phase one.
Mr. Lampkin.
Right, Mr. Lampkin. Phase one is cast in stone because there's, Mr. Ravi, is it?
Yes.
His own was a concept, the conceptualization of the second ground. Allow me to finish. His presentation was.
But I want to take the liberty of the chair. I think that every single speaker here this evening have made it very clear that nothing that's being presented is cast in stone. So I don't think that we're at a point where we can say that the thing is cast in stone and that's it. That has not been the presentation.
Well, let me clear that up.
Yeah?
Mr. Ravi presented three different projects of what we can do. Mr. Lampkin gave one of what is done or what is going to be done. So you can't tell me it's not. It is.
What's the question?
Right? There are a number of questions. One, what happens? You're saying netball is going to be here, there, and everywhere. We have no idea of where it is because phase one has the cycle track and the football and the stands. That's the three things we're sure about that is taking place in phase one. The rest of it is things that you all are now trying to fit in wherever based on the slides, right? How exactly is it going to work? Where exactly in all these sports, whether it's tennis, it's netball, where exactly are they fitting into phase one? And if the money that was given to you all tender went to cabinet for, can that support all that has to take place, including the different disciplines? Because when all is said and done, when you all start the work there, all the disciplines will be displaced, every single one.
Let's
trying to get the question, but what is the main question?
How is it going to work?
Okay,
I don't think. Based on what you just said, work is supposed to start in July.
Right.
We still have no idea of where we are going to be.
Nothing is taking place. I want to say this clearly. And listen to me. Nothing is going to take place at the lawn tennis area. It's going to remain as is, uninterrupted. Is that clear? You're not going anywhere until we come back with a solution. Have I made myself clear? We are not doing anything there until we come back with a solution. What is going forward is the pavilion. What is going forward is the pavilion. the cycle track. In a short, we've listened to all the concerns. We were trying to build, our concept was a multi-purpose facility. We are now hearing some of the challenges with that. So it remains there, not displaced. Games are going to go on as usual. The contractor is going to hoard that area off so that you are not going to be part of the construction. All of your continuing using the facility as it is now until we come back within the next 90 days with a solution. Say again?
Mr. Bipas, I want to take the last question from the floor.
Right, sure.
And then I want to toss to the table so that you all can do all of the clearing up that I think needs to happen at this moment. Yeah? That'll work? Okay, doke. At the back, yes.
I know what stakeholder I am, but I hear people talking about the various stakeholders. And I think we have omitted, by the way, my name is Olman Bedu, and I like to think I represent the rum shop crowd. So, we talk, but with all the number of stakeholders we hear, one set of stakeholders we're not hearing about, and that is the general public, the people who will be going down there. All the sports, all the activities, all the things that will be going on will not be going on well unless you have spectators, people who are coming to pay and take part in that kind of way. So I'm saying we need to look, to my mind, if you are putting this major facility there, we have here, and this is something that's not only San Fernando, it's also the greater San Fernando, and in fact it is a regional major mega project. So that we have to think in terms of that. And if we think in terms of that, we have to think in terms of the people, public, who will go down there, who will participate, and how do you cater for them. One big area you have to think of in terms of is the question of traffic. We have to think in terms of a particular transportation plan in San Fernando, a traffic hub, or something like that, because you have to cater more than in San Fernando. So all I'm just throwing out, that in terms of this project, it is not just Skinner Park there and putting on the physical facilities that we have down there, infrastructure, but also a lot of other things that are related to it in and around San Fernando and in Trinidad. I just throw that out as stakeholders. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, I want to thank all of you for your contributions from the floor. I know that there's more, but from my reading of things, we've spent over an hour in this discussion, which is, at this time, I think that a lot of what I heard can be clarified by the table. Anything that is not clarified, I'm also hearing that there's a mechanism that's been put in place about 2 weeks, is it? In which stakeholders are going to be coming together to do a deep dive on this project and other matters. So I don't want you to think that we can go on for another hour, and we are not going to. I just want to remind you that we have ventilated a number of issues this evening. Some have been clarified. We're going to go back to the table for further clarification of anything that's not been taken up. So for example, the table needs to answer the question around energy efficiency. I think that question is outstanding. And there was also a comment about the direction of the rain and how that can affect the seating. And so perhaps that is something that that you want to respond to as well. And I don't think that you've responded to the question that came more than once in terms of the cost of the project. So that as you deal with the situation of especially the Netball Association, which I think still needs to be clarified, I think we need to reiterate your point. The thing is not cast in stone. We're talking, let's do it in a particular kind of way, but also if you can answer these questions, please.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry, ma'am. Not at this point. I'm sorry. I've closed off. No. I'm sorry. Let's take it here and let's.
Right. Good. Yes. I got you. Yes. The material
he has it. Yeah.
And all of
Thanks.
That. Well, I think Mr. Lampkin and York would be in consultation with the Federation before, correct? So you would, that discussion would be had with Mr. York and before they even embark. But in his presentation, I know he mentioned there have been some defects with the track, and there needs to be some milling and all of that. So before that takes place, we would make contact with the Federation and have the expert opinion. In terms of the cost, well, it's public funds, so I guess I can say it. Okay. The estimated cost of phase 1 is $126 million. Of course, York said he's not making any money, so don't line up by them for work. Nobody addressed the issue of employment, which I thought might have been a question that I came prepared for, but I guess nobody's interested in that.
I raised it.
Okay. So, anybody want a job, go to the mayor. See that nobody wants to find out about that. But yes, basically we put a mechanism in place where we'll take a registry. Excuse me? Yeah. For those who are interested in employment and some sort of subcontract work from the community, we have asked the contractor to try to take at least 40% of the unskilled labor from the community. We've asked that a registry be done at the mayor's office, the MP for San Fernando East office, and of course the MP for San Fernando West. And the contractor is going to try and take names from that list for unskilled and other skilled employment that as much as possible. We've asked for a minimum of 40%, but we can't ask him for much more. So let's hope that works. We'll be monitoring that figure as well. In terms of the cost, well, you heard the cost. The other question was the cycling track and the material and the methodology going forward. Other than that, the more I hear of this discussion with the netball, I'm thinking that we have to have another facility for them, something proper, because it seems that they can't coexist in the way that we would like it to. So I'm thinking that that might very well be the solution. A permanent home for the netballers, one place that, because trying to do all of this and trying to please everybody may create more problems, as you can see. So that might be the discussion going forward, a place where we can find in San Fernando that we can put up a netball facility. That might be cheaper anyway, and that's what we're trying to do here. Did I miss anything?
The energy efficiency.
Oh, the energy efficiency. Mr. Lampkin, did you factor that into your design? LED lights.
Within the pavilion and so forth, we have LED lights and solar lights on the perimeter.
Okay. Okay. And we will try our best to use as much solar lights as possible where possible. Okay.
Let me, in summarizing this, so people, we have this propensity to be not solution oriented. We could find several problems and reasons why we can disagree with this project. But let us be positive about this. Let's separate and see if there's more good and bad in this. And if there's more good and bad, then let's put our heads together and make this work. This is so important to us. Somebody said that the government's going to back. Well, I'm San Fernando. I'm seeing the bigger picture here, what we can do. Since Patrick Manning, we have had no major development in San Fernando. This is an excellent opportunity. San Fernando is at a cusp of development right now. Mr. Bipart spoke about $100+ million in Skinner Park. There's another large amount of millions for the waterfront development. All these projects are heading up, starting. We have the Chancery Lane project starting shortly. major car park from on the top of the promenade all the way down to the Guardian office. Those are projects that will be down to the people of San Fernando. It will benefit us, it will improve our bargaining, our purchasing power, our opportunities for employment. Let's look at the positive in this. Are we going to say, well, we start this project, send it back to the cabinet, we start all over again? The horse already bolted. Let us find ways to make sure the track is clear and we put a route for the horse to turn and turn in the right place at the right time. This is how we should be thinking positive. Why don't we stay here on Sewet when I agree this project probably started off on the wrong foot. Well, let's put it on the right foot. We have the power to do that. That's why we're here this evening, to talk in a very positive way so we can leave here smiling. We'll fix what is rough. We'll smoothen the rough ends. There's room for negotiation. As a matter of fact, we had our first meeting 2 weeks ago. The very next day, I called an emergency meeting with the stakeholders in Skinner Park. And we have made tremendous progress within a 7 days time or 14 days period. We met Saturday morning and recommendations were made. And by Monday morning, we made tremendous progress. By this evening, results were presented to you all based on the meeting that we had Saturday morning. This is the rapid pace that we're working with. Let's continue to be positive about this for the benefit of San Fernando, because most of us here are over 50. So we're talking about the next generation. We want another Hazel Crawford, another John Stedman, another Robert Farrell, and all these persons who make Trinidad and Tobago proud. And this is the opportunity. Let us embrace this with everything and make it work.
Thank you. Thank you very much. People of San Fernando, it could never be enough. I know the time is not sufficient. There's a lot more to talk about, to talk through and to work through. And I apologize that we can't give it more time. I am, however, very grateful that you chose to be here, you chose to participate, and you chose to contribute to shaping your space. Clearly, there are some issues that need further discussion and perhaps deeper discussion. I think the commercialization of the space stands out for me, but also the issue of governance. A number of people talked about whether decisions are being made prior to consultation or after, and that there has to be greater participation in terms of decision making. I think also that because, and somebody said it, the park is the lungs of San Fernando. And I had to write down that quote because I find that it just captures what was referred to in the opening stages of our discussion here this evening as an iconic landmark. So clearly Skinner Park means a tremendous amount of people in terms of culture, in terms of relationships, and in terms of the very oxygen that we need. Thank you very much for coming out. You've had a full house and I congratulate you for that as well. My thanks also to the presenters, Mr. Lamkin from York Structure and Mr. Kilowan from NLBA Architects. Thanks also to the experts from UDICUT who walked us through a number of sensitive issues that we could not get a grip of without having your guidance. Thank you very much for that. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for your presence, your contribution, your leadership, and your guidance here this evening. Very, very much appreciated. My thanks to UDICUT for the opportunity to be part of this conversation. And I know that Macasey has organized some refreshments for all of us so that we can stick around a little bit longer and talk more informally with people that we need to have clarification from or to share our point of view. Thank you to the councillors and to Ms. Alexis from the Rural Development Company, and who is here on behalf of the MP for San Fernando East. And thank you to all of the government agencies here this evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And to all of you, good night and walk good.